It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey there, before we kick off, I want to share a really important thought. 71% of you who watch this channel frequently don't subscribe. So if you've enjoyed any video you've ever watched, can you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps the channel more than you think, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. So let's go. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the ToolShed Podcast. On this episode, I'm speaking to Shilpa Mohan. It's not an emotional topic, I'm sure, but I don't know what happened to my throat there, but it just closed on me. And she is head of operations at Procure. So we're going to find out all about that, but she's also involved in TEDx in Sydney. So we're going to find out about that. We're going to find out about a whole bunch of things. Before we get started and get the story directly from Shilpa, I want to remind you of the Builders Freedom Readiness Scorecard. I talk about it in every episode. And if you haven't done it by now, you're nuts. So go and hit the link in the description. Take about 2 minutes and you'll get some super valuable stuff emailed to you based on the score that you get from the answers that you give. And that will help you identify the things that you're probably missing that when you start to work on are going to start to improve and increase the amount of time freedom that you can experience running your own business, which we know for most business owners is quite scarce, but also relieve the financial pressure as well. So it's a good investment of a couple of minutes to do that. Shilpa, there you are. You're in Sydney. I'm in south of Hobart. You said, what's south of Hobart? And you thought Antarctica was south of Hobart, so I'm not quite that far south, but here we are. And we've been trying to organise this podcast for a little while now. We've finally done it. So my first question always is we want to find out about you. So what has been your story to get you to this point where you've been part of the, I'm assuming, the creation of Procure. Procure. Am I getting that right? ProcurePro. There we go. I just put my teeth back in. I should have made sure my teeth were in properly before I pressed the record button. ProcurePro. Yeah. And you know, just doing a bit of stalking, you know, as we do on social media and that sort of stuff. You're involved with TEDx, and you are passionate about startups. You're an interior designer, and you came very, very highly recommended to have a conversation in the podcast. So tell us about how you got interested in the construction company and how you ended up where you are now, head of operations.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Mick, and for all the wonderful things you just said, and also for stalking me. That's always a pleasure. Yeah. So I was actually born in Adelaide, and then I moved to Sydney about 9 years ago now. So I consider myself half and half Adelaidean and Sydneyite now. So I actually started my education in pharmacy. So I loved sciences and I started in that. But when I was growing up in Adelaide, a weekend activity that my parents would frequently take my sister and I to was going to open houses.
Really? Well, I shouldn't laugh at that because me and my wife, before our well, maybe when we had our first child, that used to be our weekend outing, going to open homes or display homes in those villages that they would build for new homes. Carry on.
Yep. We'd go to open homes and like display homes and auctions, and it was just always about property because my parents obviously immigrated from India and they really wanted to get into the property industry and also set themselves up for success in Australia. Yeah. So they were very interested in that space, and so I would go to these display homes and I loved how all these houses were set up. And And I'd always imagine myself as an interior designer. So I'd think about where furniture should go and what the placement of the house should be, like the rooms and the layout. And so I always wanted to be an interior designer, but then I loved science, so I did pharmacy. And then I obviously did pharmacy, and then I realized, okay, this isn't really for me. And then I studied interior design, moved to Australia. Not moved to Australia, moved to Sydney.
Some people in Sydney think, that's just
That's
Australia. Sydney
yep.
is Australia. Forget about the
Yeah,
rest.
I don't think anyone considers Adelaide part of Australia anyway.
Sorry, Adelaide.
Exactly. No, I love Adelaide. And so I worked as a architect and designer at a few firms in Sydney, and then I've always had a passion for software, and I think the world revolves around tech. And I could see a lot of the inefficiencies in the construction industry, and I really wanted to be a part of the solution, not the problem. And so I joined ProcurePro, and the rest is history.
So what does being head of operations entail? Like it sounds like you've got lots of responsibilities. So what's your day and week look like?
Oh God, I don't think any day is the same, and that's why I love what I do.
Excellent.
Operations, I think, there's a different definition in every single company that you go to. For us, I am responsible holistically for finance, people and culture, just general operations, whatever falls into that bucket, and also very heavily involved in the strategy of the company and also with the go-to-market side of things as well. I think I like to think of operations as anything that doesn't fit into anyone's specialized bucket, the operations department takes on. And so that's how we're sort of growing the company as well.
Yeah. So, and I've got it right finally, ProcurePro, even though I stumbled again. I don't know why that's so difficult for me to say at this time of day. It's not as if it's early. What does it specifically do? I mean, obviously procurement is in the title, in the construction industry. So who's it for? Who's kind of the ideal client, and why do they use this platform? How does it help them?
Yeah. So ProcurePro is essentially a procurement workflow management software. So everything from when a head contractor wins a project, they use our software to procure their subcontractors and manage that workflow until contract signature. And so the best part of our software obviously is not only that, everything is digitized and consolidated and in one place, so you have a lot of oversight with what's happening, which, you've never really had before, and it hasn't really existed before. You would be in Excel, you'd be in emails. I think I heard a builder in South Australia said that they were still using a fax machine. So, you've got all of these processes, and ProcurePro brings them all together. But then it also gives you unprecedented and never seen before data. So it shows you exactly, buying opportunities, what's happening with procurement, what your gains and losses are. So, everything around that space as well. So any head contractors currently use our platform. But we're also just about to release a second product, which I can't say anything more about now. But that product will be used by many more people, not just the commercial industry and not just large contractors, but smaller contractors and, estimators and everyone.
Okay. When are we going to be allowed to know more about that?
It's currently in beta, so you'll hear more about it this year for sure.
This year. All right. Well, we'll have to get you back and do an exclusive and, breaking news and all of that sort of stuff. So part of what when you were sort of giving us the how I got here story was you mentioned that there were issues that you identified in the construction industry, which is why you ended up being part of this organisation. So can we start to unpack some of those things? Because I think that sometimes people don't realise that how they're doing things is kind of very unproductive or ineffective. Although old mate in Adelaide who's got the fax machine, he might be just very serious about security and doesn't want to get hacked. So you can't hack a fax machine.
Quite possible. You can steal paper from a fax machine.
So he might know something that we don't. But apart from him, what were the things that you were seeing as you were sort of looking around and could see that there was some shortcomings to the construction industry? So some of the problems that you saw.
Yeah, there was honestly so much from everything that we were doing in interior design, which was, and we're a very digitally forward industry per se in interior design because I've learnt CAD, I learnt SketchUp, Revit, Vectorworks. So you learn all of those tools straight away because the last thing you want to be doing is designing with pen and paper, or pencil and paper as it used to be.
But at least you can fax them.
Exactly. So that part of the industry moved very quickly, but at the same time, we'd draw up the plans and we'd still have to print them out in A1, take them to site, and that's what builders were working off of. So there was a lot of lost information. So revisions weren't up to date. A lot of things would be lost in translation, especially when you're looking at things like scope of works. You're essentially leaving yourself open to so many scope gaps and variations, because it's been handed person to person. There's so many versions of a drawing when you get to the stage of a scope of works and things like that. So it's like there is no consolidation. There's no data on what's worked previously. There's no lessons learned. There's all these things that just is very broken. It's a very, very manual industry. I think there was data out there recently that named construction the second least digitized industry in the world.
What was the first? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was agriculture. so that's quite a scary stat, especially because if you look at Australia, I think construction contributes to 7% of GDP or something like that. So it's not a small industry. It's a very, very big industry. So the fact that the industry doesn't use as much technology as it could was a very, glaring gap to me. And I genuinely think if you don't use technology, even the basic, software that's out there today, you're already a step behind. But now with AI, you're about 10 steps behind if you don't jump on that train now as well. So the industry is moving so quickly, and I just want construction to, catch up to it.
So how are you finding the uptake of things like this? Are you finding that the construction industry is starting to open up a little more to technology and sort of accepting that, maybe I might have to get rid of the fax machine or, and all of the plans on paper and what have you, and even more digital communications with the team, but also with the client, and so everyone kind of understands what's going on at any given time. They've got access to the progress. It sort of makes sense to me. But how are you finding the uptake of technology since when you first started? Is it you're noticing that they're becoming a bit more tech savvy?
Oh, definitely. There's been a rapid increase in the amount of builders we've been able to get onto the platform. So when I joined ProcurePro, I still remember it was a huge celebration when we had $1 billion worth of projects on our platform. And that was, I joined 3 years ago.
Yep.
And so it was a big celebration in the office, amongst all of us, because they're like, wow, this is actually being used. This is amazing. And now I just looked at the numbers and we're at 80 billion.
Wow.
So it's there's been a massive uptake, which is great to see. And we can see a clear difference with the way people think after using the software. So um, before with procurement, I think they were just going through the manual processes. Okay, is there a procurement schedule? Are we checking that once a month? Do we know when things are up to date? Things like that. But now, what we're seeing when they're using this software is it takes a lot of that manual admin load off of their plate.
Yeah.
So they're able to actually look at their projects and see, okay, what can I do to now, push these projects like further along, and get more out of the budget, and actually get the value out of the projects that it actually deserves, rather than just going through the manual process.
Yeah. You mentioned AI, and
Mhm.
it's the letters on everybody's lips at the moment. It's a good thing, it's a
Yeah, I
bad
bet you
thing.
haven't heard AI ever mentioned before.
No, we've never talked about it ever before. We've got a workshop for Builders Business Black Belt tomorrow, doing
Amazing.
some AI stuff. But how have you integrated it with ProcurePro? What sort of AI support integration is there with ProcurePro? How does that work?
So we're approaching AI slightly differently to, I think, a lot of people are currently. I think people are just slapping AI on a product and using it mostly for search right now,
Yep.
which is possibly a okay way to go about it, but it doesn't actually unlock what needs to be unlocked. So how we're thinking about AI is, what's this second layer of technology that we can add on that will really create value. So right now, what we've been able to do is make sure that people can procure faster,
Mm.
which is stage one of our software, which is what all good SaaS should realistically do. But our next stage is really, okay, if we've helped people work faster, how can we then make them work smarter, which is what AI will help us unlock. So we're really thinking about, how do we build AI into the product for it to give the end user actual value. So
Mm.
how does it help them do their work in an intelligent way, rather than just, I just need to get this admin done. Um, and what data can it realistically unlock? The reason why we're in a good position to do that is because you're obviously, when you use software, you are putting a lot of data through the system. So AI should be able to use that to give you better insights into what you can do, rather than, if someone is using a generic tool like ChatGPT, it doesn't actually have their data,
Mm.
and things like that. So that's how we're thinking about it. But at the same time, we need to approach it, cautiously but optimistically as well,
Yeah.
because there is a huge potential with the technology, but at the same time, we also have to consider security and things like that.
Yeah. So we've heard that you got into pharmacy, didn't like it,
Yep.
loved interior design because you used to get dragged round to open homes and display homes and what have you, and now you're involved with ProcurePro, head of operations, but you've also obviously got a passion for education and public speaking and so forth because you're involved with TEDx Sydney. So I'd love to hear the backstory there. How does one get involved in that? How did you get involved in TEDx, and what do you do as part of TEDx? What's your involvement?
Yeah, I think I've been involved in TEDx Sydney since I moved to Sydney, actually, because I joined TEDx Sydney to essentially make friends. So
Yeah.
I just moved to Sydney, and I was like, how, as an adult, do you make friends in a new city? And so I volunteered just on the event day one year, um, and just, I think, did some very basic things like, helped people on the door or something like
Mm.
that. And then the next year, I got invited back to be a deputy volunteer manager. So I was managing 300 odd volunteers, which is
Wow.
very exciting, but a lot of work. And then through that, I think through, talking to various people and, telling them about my interests with design and construction and technology, they asked the following year after that if I wanted to come back as a curator, especially for design speakers or construction or technology, which was great because that's where my real passion lay. And I think storytelling is a really, really important skill to have, because without that, you can't really convey anything, you can't sell anything, you can't position yourself or what you're doing as well. So that's why I decided to do that. And so I've been doing that for quite a few years. So I find speakers, I coach them to speak on stage. So, how do you talk? How do you stand? All of that, but also editing their talks as well to make sure that there is a actual idea in those talks, but then a proper sequence through the talks as well.
Yeah, well, that's a fascinating thing, helping people do that. I've been watching TED Talks and TEDx Talks for years and years and years. It's one of my favourite things to do. And, having done a whole bunch of presentations over the 30-odd years I've been doing this, I've also met people who genuinely find it more terrifying than jumping out of a plane or, there's that old saying that it's, the next one next to, fear of death or whatever it might be, and no one's ever died from public speaking. But what are some of the things that you help people with? Because I think it's just an interesting conversation regardless, because I know that years and years ago, one of the most valuable things I ever did prior to getting into coaching was going to Toastmasters. And learning how just to speak in front of a dozen people around a table, and some dude called the grunt counter would be counting how many ums and ahs you did and stammers and stutters, and so he would have had a busy time for me today. Just every time I said ProcurePro, he would have given me a black mark. But it gives you a lot of confidence just in other things, being able to articulate an issue or an idea or a concept. What are some of the things that you do that you've helped people with? Because I'm not asking the question from the perspective of getting people to be able to speak at TEDx, but there are things that I'm sure that you help people to do that just give them more confidence, and that the answer to this question can be valuable for people who just need to talk at a meeting, at a toolbox meeting, at a, just any sort of place like that, talking to suppliers, talking to subbies, whatever it might be. What are some of the ideas that you give people to help them with that?
Just firstly, 100%, agree with everything you said. And public speaking has always been one of my biggest fears. So it's really interesting that I ended up in this space. But I think it's because I also pushed myself to be in this space, because I wanted to get over that fear. And even when I get on stage now, I still tremble at the thought of it. But once I get on, then I'm completely fine. But usually some of the things that I tell people, and I don't know if you've ever been to a live TEDx Sydney talk or a TEDx talk.
No.
But the thing we coach them on is, like, if you stumble, it is completely okay to pause and regain composure. I think people, when they stumble, they feel the pressure to continue and just push through. But sometimes that's the worst thing you can do, because it can really shake your confidence. So it's okay to just pause, regain your thoughts, take a deep breath, and continue talking. That's one of the things that I think helps every single speaker that I've seen. The other thing that
the pause also, like, it creates drama as well. It's like
Exactly.
we used to sort of have a bit of a joke about it, but it's not so much of a joke in Toastmasters. Like you forget where you're up to, or you stop and you're just looking at people, and people go, "What's going on?" And it's like, I can't wait to hear what he's got to say in a minute. It's going to be awesome. So if you use the gap properly, it's a good thing.
It's also endearing to people. People don't like when someone is completely polished. It makes that person unobtainable as a person. So when someone actually stumbles and then they take a pause, you as the audience relate to them a lot more, because that's more like what every person is like. So I think that really helps. And I think the other thing that people don't see with TEDx Sydney is there is a lot of preparation that goes on before someone talks. So that always helps, whether you're talking, to a Zoom camera or whatever, or, you're talking to a subby on site, or you conducting a project meeting, whatever it is. If you prepare some notes, just go through them, understand the sequence, talk in threes. If you have 3 dot points, people are more likely to remember that as well. There's all these techniques and things you can do, but usually it comes down to preparation. So before someone goes on stage with TEDx Sydney, they have a whole script. They actually memorize it. Some people use beats to memorize things. Some people use, cue cards. But when they're on stage, they're not allowed to have anything. They don't have a teleprompter. They don't have anything at all. They're just going off of memory. So, that's probably one of the other great things about, how to actually prepare yourself for public speaking. Actually prepare what you're going to say, have some notes on the side, whatever you need to do to make you feel more confident. So that's number 2. Number 3 would probably be record yourself. I think that's one of the scariest things to do, but it really does help.
Well, interesting you say that, because it's something that I was just scrolling through YouTube, as you do, and I'm a big fan of Stephen Bartlett, and so I came across a video that he did, and he was talking about all sorts of things. But part of what he talked about was a challenge. He threw out a challenge to record a video every day, 7 days a week for 90 days in a row. At the same time, I think I was listening to his audio book as well, where he was talking about mastery, and we teach what we most need to learn and things like that, I heard that from Tony Robbins, like back in the 90s. And I put the two things together and threw the challenge out to our black belt members, but lead by example. So I'm sort of up to, I think here's my sheet here, up to video. I think I've recorded video 38 today out of 90. But the That's interesting amazing. Thing is that I'm trying to use these videos to get into what's called the Feynman technique, or the Feynman method, which is, he was a physicist, I believe, who used this technique to learn things at a very deep level by teaching it. And you've got to teach it so you're teaching a 12-year-old. So you can't use big words. You've got to use really basic words so your communication is very, very, very effective to a 12-year-old. And I've just found marrying that technique to videoing yourself every day and being brave enough to post it. So we're sticking it on LinkedIn and YouTube and what have you. And as I said, I'm up to video 38, and I can't tell you how many clear, really valuable thoughts I'm having every day, because I'm explaining these concepts from a different angle each day, trying to become more effective each day doing it. And some of the blinding flashes of the obvious that I've been having over the past, number of weeks doing this has been phenomenal. So, I mean, that in and of itself, I think, is a great suggestion for people watching this podcast, even if they're just business owners, is to speak to a camera, just to build up the confidence, and their leadership skills. So, what else?
It's really confronting to do.
Yeah.
But just try it. It'll tell you a lot about your speaking mannerisms, what you're doing without even realizing it as well. And it helps, it's pretty much just a mirror reflection on what you're doing. And you will realize things more than someone else will realize things. So an audience member or someone listening to you talk is never going to look at you with the same critical thinking as you would look at yourself. We're our harshest critics, and it's the worst. But it does actually help you refine how you speak, your mannerisms, your body language, how you're presenting, all of the above. And to your point, Mick, around the, change it so that you're communicating to like a 12-year-old is a really, really great tip, because I think it's even with writing and communicating through writing and prose, companies like Amazon have a big writing culture, and what they actually do is they tell you to change your writing so that a fifth grader can understand it, because if a fifth grader can't understand it, no one else in the company is going to. So it's very true. Like you need to talk to the same level as what people can resonate with, and emotional resonance is really important with any sort of communication.
Yeah. Well, I mean, another tip that sort of hangs off that as well. I think it was Stephen Bartlett who also said it. But one of the tips when he was saying, take up the challenge of recording the videos, is kill the debate. And what he meant by that was, don't have the conversation. Don't even have the conversation with yourself about how should I do this and what will people think and all of that sort of stuff. And I was watching Tony Robbins being interviewed by Jordan Peterson the other day, just talking about exactly the same thing, and how Tony sort of does the cold plunge every day and what have you, and sometimes is in places where there's nearly freezing water, in rivers where he's at sometimes, and he just walks and gets in, and the what stops you every single time is if you enter into that conversation before the between the thought and the action, and you get into that debate. And he said, just kill the debate, just decide, do it. And once you've done it, it's like you're in there. And I find the same just with the videos. I don't particularly like doing it every day, but I quite often don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I know the theme of what I've got to talk about, and I just hit the record button, and then I've got no choice. It's that you just got to start talking, and hopefully it makes sense. Makes sense to me anyway, and I think I'm getting clearer by doing it.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how you were from the first video, but you seem great now. So, no, it's genuinely the same for public speaking or speaking during meetings and things like that as well. Just do it. It will be painful the first few times, and then you'll just get used to it. It is just what happens.
Yeah. So, can you give me a little bit of background? And I'm just being very selfish here. It's my podcast, so I can be. Just the background of how TEDx or TED, the original TED, started. What was the impetus behind it? Who got it started? And what's the difference between TED and TEDx? How's that all work?
Oh God! Now you're really testing my TED
if
knowledge.
You don't know, you say I don't know. I just work for TEDx Sydney. That's it.
And that's the other thing. Saying I don't know is quite powerful as well.
Exactly.
I'm not sure, but Big TED is what we call
Big
it.
TED.
Big TED started in Canada, and I think it started as a concept of a salon, and a salon is pretty much just a really simple way to put it is a salon is when you get in a room with people and you are all discussing one idea. Like
Yeah.
that's technically what a salon is. So that's how Big TED started, and then it sort of grew from there. And so it became a space where it wasn't just famous people that were allowed to speak. It was anyone with a big idea.
Mm.
So as long as you had a big idea, a unique idea, I think the tagline is, an idea worth spreading.
Yeah.
You were allowed to speak. So that's how it started. And then it just grew. It became so popular. And, ask anyone, they know what a TED Talk is. And so they started having sort of like franchise models. So that anything with an X is pretty much a licensee of Big TED. And of that, there are so many, TEDx's, but the biggest ones in the world are, things like TEDx Sydney. So TEDx Sydney is, I think, top 10 biggest TEDx
Wow,
in the
that's
world.
amazing.
Yeah. So in our heyday, or like when it was the biggest, we had about 5,000 attendees. A lot of our videos get over 1 million views and things like that, so it's quite big.
Wow. Well, you must have a fairly full diary being head of operations for ProcurePro as well as being the curator for TEDx Sydney. Do you have any personal social time, or do you just work and sleep? Do you do anything else?
Much to the dismay of a lot of people around me, I don't have much of a time for a personal life.
Yeah.
I try to do things outside of work, but I'm also incredibly passionate about what I do. So even with tech and startups, I spend a lot of time mentoring and advising other startups and founders, and get very actively involved in the community because I'm passionate about not only helping people jump into tech from unconventional backgrounds like I did, but also helping underrepresented people get into tech as well, because same with the construction industry, tech is also very non-diverse. So I've been passionate about getting all of those things happening as well, but in any spare time I get, I usually travel.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Why not? So
Exactly.
somebody listening to this wants to take a look at ProcurePro. Best way to do that is website or drop round to your house. Which is the best way?
Definitely don't drop around to my house. You won't find anything interesting there.
You won't be home anyway.
I won't be home. I'll be traveling, hopefully. Yes, our website, www.procurepro.co, is the best place, or just look us up on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find us quite quickly.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we'll put all of the appropriate links in the description in any case. As far as TEDx is concerned, somebody who wants to I don't know how even that works. Do people approach TEDx Sydney and say, I'd like to do it. What do I need to do? Or do you find people? How does that work?
A bit of both. So you should be able to. I'm not sure if they still have it on the website, but you can check. But on the TEDx Sydney website, there should be a place where you should be able to submit a talk, I think.
Okay.
If you can't do that, you can always find me on LinkedIn and reach out that way as well.
Yeah, but don't drop round your house because you won't be there.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got it. Well, look, fantastic to meet you. You're an absolute inspiration. Amazing story of doing all sorts of things and ending up in in that position with ProcurePro and TEDx, and it just seems like that you've kind of done pretty much anything that you've set your mind to over your journey. So, do you have anything you can share with us as to what you've been thinking you might want to do next? Anything else you've been dreaming about that we might have to catch up with you later on to find out how it went?
Oh God, how long do you have, Mick?
God, hey, if this is digital recording, we can go for days.
Exactly. No, I'm super excited about where ProcurePro is going. So I'm really excited we've expanded over to the UK and Ireland. We're, getting customers in the US and the Middle East. So it's growing quite quickly and largely. Largely, that was terrible English. But other than that, something I've been passionate about since I was younger is I've always wanted to write a fiction book. So it's completely out of the ordinary of what I am used to and what I can do or what I've done before. But I would love to, write a book one day. But we'll see how that goes.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have you back a couple more times. One for the launch of the Secret Squirrel News for ProcurePro and the new approach, the new whatever it's going to be. You're not going to tell us anything, so we don't know what it is. And we're back another time for the launch of the fiction book,
the book,
first of the series of fiction books. So, go ahead.
I'll send you a copy, Mick.
Okay.
I'll get you to read it and review it. Yeah, exactly.
I'll do the foreword.
Thanks so much for having me on, Mick, and thanks so much for doing what you do for the construction industry as well.
Absolute pleasure.
More people like you.
It was a fun chat. It's good to learn what's going on and what's around and what platforms there are, and I just love to connect with people who have a passion for improving the building and the construction industry, because it's something that I'm really passionate about, and there is so much unnecessary pain, much of it caused by the standard garden variety processes that the construction industry uses. So,
Exactly.
there's a lot of opportunity for improvement and be able to enjoy it better, make it more profitable, but also make the experience so much better for everyone involved as well. So it's great, meeting people like yourself who are doing marvelous things. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again for the book launch.
Thank you so much, Mick.
Okay. So there you go, folks. Jump onto the website, ProcurePro. There, I've said it maybe half a dozen times now properly, so I finally got it in the end. And take a tour around that. I think you can book a demo, all that sort of stuff on the website. See if it's something that can help you with your construction business. We will be back with another episode before you know it. Make sure you click the link in the description and take the Builders Freedom Readiness Scorecard. It'll take you about 120 seconds or less if you're don't muck around, but you will get some really valuable stuff in your inbox in relation to what you can begin to do to gain that little bit more time freedom and financial freedom, eliminating the financial stress that can often be experienced by builders and small business owners. So go do that. It's a great investment of a couple of minutes. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. As I said, we'll be back with another episode. Before you know it, I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I am out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.